But anyway, here's a nice close-up as well, if you have not yet seen a Finex cast iron skillet. This is the number 12 size, in fact. Oh boy, and is this thing heavy too. It is much heavier than a large skillet. Yeah, made by Finex, and this was a Christmas present given to me in actually 2014, in fact. So this is going on over 6 years old. So, and I've gotten quite a bit of use out of it. And this, as I said, is probably the thickest and heaviest cast iron skillet in my collection, which means it is really, really great for searing. And if I'm going to do if I'm going to make some patties and make some burgers, you better believe this is the pan I'm going to go with. However, before we go with that, I think we better, I'm starting right away because this is going to take a little while. Namely, just put in a wee bit, oh yeah, be quiet, a wee bit of canola oil. And then we start caramelizing some onions. It looks like a lot of onions, but these things shrink considerably. And I am hoping to have enough caramelized onions here for at least 3 patty melts. Meanwhile, all we can do is just, well, keep on stirring. Not too much, but keep on stirring until these onions reach just the right consistency. However, if you notice, these onions definitely have shrunk a little bit even in these last few minutes, and that, again, they are not filling up the entire pan. That's why I made all of those. I chopped up 3 onions, and because we're going to be doing a total of probably 3 burgers, and even so, I hope that's enough. And that's where a lot of them come. Yeah, I'd say we're probably at the point now, I think, that we've got ourselves some caramelized onions. Oh, yeah, onions. Oh. Maybe I'll just soak some butter in this and just eat these onions and then forget the rest of it. No, that's not fair. I will in fact be doing the burgers. But yeah, these are some nice caramelized onions here. Same bowl as I did those raw onions. So are they going to be contaminated by the raw onions? Yeah, I know. Kind of a lame joke there. That's only because more than once I've been commented about putting things back in the same dish where I originally had the raw meat. In most instances, I don't have a problem with that because you figure this is thoroughly cooked and it is well hot enough that it's going to kill any extra bacteria that might get onto it from the original dish, which is why I am very little concerned about cross-contamination. Yeah, this is heavy. There we go. Caramelized onions. And now that we've done that, we start cranking up the heat, meaning that I'm going to go from just under medium to, well, maybe 6 to 7. Because with a good, heavy, thick cast iron skillet, that's really about all you need. However, while we're waiting here, now I think we're going to bring out a little bonus here. This bonus comes from the research I did on patty melts. And research, of course, like any researcher these days, means watching YouTube videos. I came across this really neat video on a patty melt that showed a different way to make it, so that instead of doing the patties, you actually cook the entire ground beef in a pan until it's all separated, and then mix in the cheese and the onions. So I'm going to give that a try, and let's see how this turns out. Let's get cooking. So this one, we're actually not chipping this into patties. We're going to be breaking everything up into nice toasty bits. So yeah, this pan had cooled off quite a little bit, so it's not searing hot. However, I do have the heat up, and because, again, this is a nice thick cast iron pan. Oh, and by the way, look at how it's really absorbing all of the toasty bits from the previous batch as well. So notice how nothing's sticking here. We are going to be getting ourselves a nice bit of ground beef in here. Once everything here is all nicely toasted and we are full of and it's all full of crunchy bits. Then we're going to mix in a whole bunch of cheese and those caramelized onions. And the cheese is going to be a binder, and that is what is going to hold everything together. So that is going to be a different kind of patty melt. Especially with that patty melt, we're not even going to use any bread, but instead we're going to make a wrap from it. So notice though it is bubbling off, so again I guess all we can do is wait for the liquid to evaporate. Or we could cheat and actually drain off some of this liquid, which maybe we'll do that. Because yeah, that's the other thing about the Finex. As they point out, this 8-sided is, one reason is so that these things here can actually pour like pour spouts. So how about let's give that a try and see how well it works or doesn't work. Carefully. Pour out some of this liquid. There we go. That actually worked pretty well. Whoops, got a drop on the burner. However, at this point I'm not just browning the ground beef, I am trying to get it so that it's nice and crispy. So we're just going to have to keep going until we've got some crunchy bits here, which I suspect is really not going to take that long. At this point we can add a little bit of seasoning to this, not much. So let's throw in a little bit more of this kosher salt. But at the same time, there's no reason why I can't just use a pepper grinder and do this. And that's about all we're going to use for seasoning, because that's really all we need. As I said earlier tonight, my real plan is to just let the meat do the talking. Oh man, however, boy, did that ever improve the scent of this. Well, we're actually starting to get somewhere now. Yeah, I'd say at this point we are getting past the point where this ground beef is just simply browned, and we are getting close to the point where it's actually cooked. Of course, at the same time, we don't want it to dry out either, especially since we added salt, which, as you know, causes the meat to release some of its liquid. However, it's worth it. I mean, boy, if you could smell this. Just like those caramelized onions, you notice how it's no longer filling the pan. It has actually shrunk quite a bit. So because of that, I think we're getting to the point where we get to do the good stuff. What is the good stuff? The good stuff would be the caramelized onions. And in addition to the caramelized onions, here's where we throw in the cheese. And this time, we're going to use the stuff, the shredded stuff. And here again is where the outcry will start. No, not shredded cheese. You know that shredded cheese contains chemicals. Yeah, actually it does contain chemicals meant especially to keep the cheese from clumping. But, frankly, I myself have had very little problem with using that, because it is still going to melt and mix in with this ground beef. So I'm sorry if I offended you by saying that. However, I am speaking from experience, also from the fact that I do not like a lot of these foodie fads that talk about silly things like eating healthy, and meaning that, well, no, there's nothing wrong with eating healthy. However, it's like, oh, this type of food, this cheap processed food here will poison you. You only have to buy this really, really expensive stuff. No. That's when I start getting sarcastic. I'm not going to get into any more detail about that. That's going to come at another time. And pretty soon, for that matter. And actually, now we're not done, because speaking of processed cheese, let's throw in a little bit more of it, shall we? We're not done yet. Once again, you can give credit, I will give credit, or blame if you prefer, to that foodie channel called Guga Foods, G-U-G-A Foods, for coming up with this idea of making a cheesy, well, they call it a patty melt. I really don't think you can call this a patty melt. On the other hand, pan full of ground beef with cheese and more cheese mixed in. Definitely not a bad thing at all. Oh, here's the next bit non-standard that we go through. Instead of doing bread, flat bread, well, this is bread, I know, flat bread, but let's throw in a tortilla wrap, shall we? At this point, we're probably about ready to go here. Oh yeah, I can feel my arteries clogging already. Heart attack in a pan. Yeah, but you'll die with a smile on your face. And quite frankly, if you feel that it might cause problems, well, the best I can say, don't make it. And I'm not being sarcastic either. You can at least watch us do it, and I hope that gives you some enjoyment. Here's the part where, let's see, put this in the middle. Now, let's see if we can do this right. Wrap one side and around, and guess what? Not quite right, but close, because, as they like to say in Hollywood, and that's a wrap. You're just in time, so I apologize for disturbing you, but still, there we are. A little bit of ground beef and cheese, and more cheese, and still more cheese. However, nonetheless, there we are. Here is our second wrap. Especially since I can't resist anymore, I'm going to have to take a bite of this. Oh, oh man. Oh. Oh yeah, that's why they call it food porn.